one thing I know about Michael Bunting in the time that I've known him is he usually leaves the game as one of the most hated players on the ice. Uh, I've come to expect that from him in terms of reactions he gets from other teams. Um, but I think that's a positive thing. Like he's not out there to make friends. He's out there to score goals and help his team win. And he makes no apologies about how he goes about it. So I like that about him. I'm really happy that he's gotten the results that he's gotten here in the first two games. Allows his confidence to grow, allows him to settle in here with us. It's obviously an important time of year for a player like him that doesn't have a great deal of experience at the NHL level. But he certainly is a guy that makes no friends on the ice, and I think that's part of what makes him who he is in terms of the hunger and the competitiveness he has around the net because he's always looking to get an edge on you.
Not every player can handle being hated. Not everyone can take on that role. But what do you think it is about Michael that's allowed him to just lean into it and allow that to sort of be a part of his narrative as a player?
Well, because I know the history of Bunce, he made the OHL, as a late bloomer, a guy that took a very unconventional route, especially here in the GTA. Played Double A hockey for a long time, and undrafted until he was 18. I think he's just got a chip on his shoulder in terms of how he's come up through the hockey ranks, and some of it's just his own natural personality off the ice. He's plays with a lot to prove every night, and he's just out there to try to make the best of every opportunity he can. And I like those qualities about him. That's what I think makes you believe a player like him always has a chance. And here he is in the NHL, being a bit of a late bloomer once again, taking some time to get to this point. But it's all through determination, belief in yourself, and hard work, and then ultimately competitiveness. When competitiveness is the ultimate foundation, then you combine that with the talent and ability he has around the net, and then the hunger and fire that he has. It's a real nice combination, and those are the kind of guys you don't want to bet against.
Sheldon, you've coached a lot of games since then, but he said that when he would play London, one of his jobs was to get Mitch off his game. Do you remember any of that?
Not specifically. But like I said, I know that that's part of how Bunce plays. I think he takes it upon himself to do those types of things. You want him to do it intelligently and with purpose, not be a distraction to him or the team. To get away from the fact that he's a good player in his own right, and he's got lots of things that he needs to focus on and take care of on the ice shift to shift. So I don't want to make too big a deal of that factor because he's a good player. He's got a very important role and opportunity here with us to start with, and he's making the best of it thus far. But as we know, the games here in preseason are going to get more difficult, and then of course the regular season is going to be a whole nother level. So it's about the level of consistency that we'll be looking for from him, and not to get carried away one way or the other with anything else that might be happening.
So, but how tough is it to balance that? Because we saw, and I'm not comparing him to Brad Marchand, but early in Brad's career, he had to learn how to balance skill versus being a super passer.
Yeah, I think it's a process, right? And like I said, it's about not being a distraction to yourself or to the team. You've got certain things you need to prioritize in your game, and you need to walk that line, if you will. He took a penalty yesterday. I thought his emotions got the best of him in that moment. I think though you have to expect that sometimes that's going to happen. You've got guys that play on the line. Or on the edge, you expect them to make a mistake and slip up here and there, but you, of course, would prefer that probably than the guy that you got to push and prod to bring that. So, we knew, or certainly I knew in adding Bunce, that we were getting a competitor that had a lot to prove. As we all know, he had opportunities outside of the Maple Leafs that he could have made more money elsewhere. He's a guy that hasn't made a great deal of money in his career at this point, so he's come here betting on himself, and he's making good on it so far.
How has Austin's wrist responded to the little bit of action he's seen, and is there any update on the timeline or anything?
Yeah, he's just continuing to progress. The fact that we continue to see him out there every day, he hasn't had any setbacks in that sense, but it's just about building up the strength and the wrist to the point that he's confident in receiving passes, leaning into shots, and then of course face-offs and contact and those kind of things. So just continue along with his progressions, but the fact that we've seen him out every single day with no setbacks is a very good thing.
Do you expect some Engvall to play tomorrow?
Not at this point, no. Today was a good step for him, but I don't think at this stage they're going to put him in the game tomorrow. So I think the goal is more to get him involved in preseason next week.
Is tomorrow more than just an inter-squad game for some guys? Might be the last. They get down to the last opportunities to impress you.
For a lot of players that are here, I mean, how many guys between 20 23 players are going to make the team out of camp? So everybody here should be approaching every practice, every inter-squad game, every preseason game like it's more than what it is. There's established players here. You guys know who they are. They know who they are. There's also guys that are in a fight here for spots and for ice time. And everything that we're doing, they're being evaluated on. And, tomorrow is my mind, we booked it, and the way we put it together, it's as though it's a 7th preseason game for us in that manner. There's a lot of opportunity for guys to show themselves and do well. The way we've got the game set up, the game itself is actually just going to be a 2-period game. I'm not sure if any of those details have gotten to you guys here yet, but it's going to be a 2-period game, or I guess 2 halves, I guess is what you'd call it. And then the third period is going to be entirely special teams, and the teams will be different for the third period than what they were in the first 2. So I don't know if I talked myself in circles there, but it's two halves is the blue and white game, and then we're going to rejig it for special teams in the third.
How long does each have?
20 minutes, full 20. Yeah.
On that note, talking about guys maybe a bit on the fringe or trying to prove themselves, you would have watched Rasmus Sandin's development as closely as anybody. Have you seen anything from him in this camp differently that suggests he's really ready to take on that top 6 role?
I think it's too early to say that, but I saw a lot of progression in his game from his first preseason game to last night. Last night was a very important game for me to just evaluate, just because, obviously we left a lot of our top defensemen, most experienced defensemen back home, and guys like Rasmus and Philip Kral and Liljegren, played a lot more in different situations than they would otherwise. And I thought Rasmus handled that really well. So that was a really important step for him. And also, Ottawa had a lot of their best people not play as well, but they also had some very good players that played, and I thought he did a good job there. So that's important. And then tomorrow, our guys are going to be going head to head, and it's a little bit easier to sort of start to see the separation when they're on the ice at the same time. We, as you guys know, haven't done a great deal of scrimmaging here, so we'll get a chance to see that tomorrow, and then we've got more preseason action next week, and we'll see how things go from there. But I think it's too early to say, just exactly how much there's been progression from one season to the next. I've already spoken in regards to Rasmus and Timothy about how they look stronger to me. I've seen that for sure, but in terms of how that translates on the ice, I think it's a little bit early for that.
If tomorrow's third sort of period will be special teams focus, how do you structure that differently? Like, what will that kind of look like?
So we're just going to alternate power plays, if you will. There's going to be buzzers going throughout to stop and reset. It's just going to be not a traditional 3-period game in that sense. It's going to be a little bit customized to suit what we're trying to get out of it.
That's obviously for coaching reasons. Like, you still got to get these players to learn and see what you got. Right?
See what we got, but we also got to get them ready for a season, and a chance to control some of the variables like this, which, as we all know, you do not get that opportunity in preseason. Sometimes you're going to get 10 power plays. Sometimes you might get 1 or 2. You don't know how that's going to go, but we can control it here. It'll be essentially 5 power plays per team in that period of special teams that we'll do. So we'll go through some different things there. We'll get different people involved on both power play and penalty kill. Coaches will get opportunity to work with different guys, and anybody watching will be a little bit of a different and unique opportunity for them to see those sort of things being done. But I put together the plan in the off season when I looked at the schedule. Thought it was a good chance for us to do something like this, and looking forward to it tomorrow.
Will you do 3-on-3 and shootout as well?
We will. We'll do a shootout at the end of the first half, and we'll do a 3-on-3 overtime at the end of the second, regardless of score.
It's a limited body of work, but what have you liked in the limited amount that you've see a Mitch being in the middle of the power play, having Nylander
Yeah.
on the flanks.
Yeah, it has been too early to say, you know. Well, what I've liked, I guess the biggest thing is just how he's embraced it. He's working out, he's asking questions, he's getting the reps in. So that's probably the most positive thing that I've seen. I don't know that I could say much outside of that because we just haven't had them together very much. Today was really the first day that we've had them as a group working together, and then that was just 5-on-0 to start with Austin, and then we went 5-on-4, but we got some reps in there. So we'll get Willie, Mitch, and John together tomorrow with Morgan on power play when we get going to that portion of it, and then that'll be our first look at it. Of course, 34 adds a different element as well once we get him going.
You mentioned yesterday about how David Kampf allows you to manage the minutes of your top guys a bit more. Are you looking to decrease shave some shifts from your top guys, or is that more about the redeployment of the harder, maybe defensive zone start type minutes?
Yeah, probably a little more on the redeployment you're talking about, but we'll see how it goes, right? And a lot depends what's happening in the game. We want to be able to get more minutes out of our bottom six. That's something I would really like to do, but it's a dangerous thing. We got to be careful of because our top people are major difference makers for us, and we've got to give them the opportunity to make the difference. Yet, the more depth we can utilize throughout the lineup, I think there's great benefits to that, and I'm excited to see it play out here. It's too early to say exactly how it'll go, but when I think about it and what I've seen in the early going here, I think we're going to have a lot of opportunities that haven't been there as much in the last couple seasons.
Now that you've had a chance to watch Ritchie a little more closely, is there anything that surprises you about his game?
I wouldn't say so. Nick's another guy like Bunting that I've coached before, and I only coached him for a short amount of time. We got him at the trade deadline in Sault Ste. Marie. But like anyone you've coached, your eyes drawn to them a little bit more when you see them on TV, or if their game happens to be on, you're going to tune in and watch it a little bit closer. You're going to follow the highlights and things a little bit closer because you're connected to the player. So I'm pretty comfortable with Nick and his game. So not a lot that he does, I would say, surprises me. But I think for the size that he is and the physicality that he brings, I think for those that don't know him as well, you're going to be surprised with how good his hands are, how good his shot is, how good he is at making plays in tight spaces. All things that traditional big men like that aren't as strong at. But he is a guy that can do that, and that's where I think that can complement Austin and Mitch really well. Of course, with Mitch, we're seeing it here right now. We haven't had a lot of time with Austin here yet, but I think there's a lot of those elements that Nick brings from a skill perspective that does surprise you for a guy of his size.
Expect Austin to play?
Austin will not play tomorrow. No.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.